Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on the online renewals. The online renewals is a fairly new function in BNI Connect. It's only been around for about 6 months or so. But what it does is it allows members to electronically submit a online renewal in BNI Connect. So when their membership is due for renewal, they can log into BNI Connect, fill out the application electronically, and submit it. At that point, the leadership team, usually the vice president and the membership committee, can then review the information, decide whether or not that it gets accepted or whether it gets declined, and then the payment is forwarded to the regional office to be processed. So what we're going to be doing is going through how that process works for both members and for leadership teams out there. A couple of caveats about this is that this process is controlled by your region and it's not available everywhere. So not all regions around the United States or around the world are necessarily using the online renewals yet. On top of that, there are a couple of different ways that it can be configured within a region. For example, whether you can approve somebody before a membership or whether or not that you have to wait until after they've submitted their application in order for an approval to be processed. So I'm going to try to cover all the different options, but if you have, oh, hold on a second. We said I have no audio yet. Is everybody else hearing me? I have a note here from Frank saying that there's no audio. Steve Elliott, I know you're here today. Can you hear me okay? All right, so let me see if I can get a message to Frank here. Others can hear the audio. So Frank, if you can hear this, you may need to reconnect to the webinar. I do see that you're using the web client, so you may want to download the full client for the webinar. So, all right. Before we get into the content of today's presentation, just a couple of housekeeping things. Again, for specific questions about the exact process in your region, please do check with your executive director or the director consultants that are in your area in order to find out more about exactly how they're going to process this in your particular region. We're scheduled for, this shouldn't take much more than 30 minutes to go through the process. So we are scheduled for about 30 minutes worth of content today. That being said, I am always happy to stay on these calls until every single question is answered. So do feel free to ask questions as we're going through the material today. You can drop those questions into the questions panel here in the GoToWebinar software, and I can definitely answer those as we're going through the material, or if it's something unrelated, I will answer that at the end. We are recording this webinar as well. You'll be able to find the recording on the support site, support.bniconnect.com. You can get there directly from BNI Connect by clicking on the question mark in the upper right-hand corner, and that will take you here to the support site. You'll see our list of upcoming webinars. And then under chapter training, you'll see all of our recordings. I'm just in the process now of getting all the July recordings uploaded. But you could go through, for example, the June recordings and review any of those from June. You can watch them right here. Or, of course, you can go to our YouTube channel where they're all hosted, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, and you'll find all of our video presentations up here as well, along with other videos such as some educational moments and things like that. So please do feel free to join us up there. Give it a subscribe if you'd like to be notified of new videos as they are uploaded. All right, so let's jump right in here. Let's talk about the online renewals. And as I said, the renewals is a fairly new concept in BNI, at least in BNI Connect. So here's the renewal process. Overall picture of it. A member completes a renewal application. The renewal is then reviewed and approved. So it's usually reviewed by the membership committee. It is then marked as approved or declined by the vice president. and then the payment is then processed, or it's called reconciled in BNI. That renewal is then reconciled by the regional office. There's a lot of different communications and emails and notifications that go throughout this whole process, and we are going to take a look at those as well. But there's three different perspectives of how this happens. There's the perspective of how does this work for the member, then there's the perspective of how does this work for the leadership team, and then from the regional office. We're going to look at the first two today. So how does this renewal process for members work? And the way it works for members is that really the member can begin the online application when they're due for renewal. And there's really 4 different places that they can do that. The first of which is they will get a renewal reminder by default 60 days before their renewal date. So if you're, for example, due on September 1st, you would have gotten an email notification somewhere around the first week of July saying you are due for renewal in 60 days. Would you like to start that process now? And if you click on that, it will bring you into the application. The second way is that there is a link on most regional websites that say Renew Now. If you click that link, it will then also start the process. A third way is that you can click the Renew Now link in the home screen in BNI Connect. And finally, the fourth way is that you can also click on the Renew Now button that's on the main tab of your profile. So there's at least 4 different ways to start this renewal process. This is just a sample of what the email looks like that you usually get, the 60-day renewal reminder. And you'll see that there's a link there that says Renew Now that will take you to the renew process. And there's one here that says to renew online, please click here. A lot of regional websites along the left sidebar, you'll see that they do have a Renew Now. This is just a couple of examples from a couple of the regional websites that are using this. So let's take a look at how this actually works. I'm going to actually go into BNI Connect right now and step through the process as a member. So when you either click that Renew Now link, or you can, for example, be on your regional website and click the Renew Now button, it is going to ask you to please log in to BNI Connect first. And the reason for that is that the renewal application is behind, the gate here of BNI Connect. So I'm going to log in as one of my members here. Let's see, I'm going to log in with one of my members from Antarctica, my good friend Marky Mark. And he's going to sign in because he would like to process his renewal. So I'm about to start my renewal here. And by the way, this is because I clicked on the link on the website and it brought me to the login and immediately to the application. But if I back out of this for a second and just go back to my home screen, you'll see that there's also a Renew Now link that's right here on the home screen. So as long as you don't have a renewal pending, you can always just click right here on Renew Now. And if you go into your profile, so if I go to update my profile, right where it shows me my status, my membership here down at the bottom, my industry, my classification, and what chapter I'm in, that I'm active, it also allows me to click the button here to renew my membership. So when I click on Renew, as I said, it's going to bring me to the renewal application. So it's letting me know my due date right now. I'm not actually due until October 1st of 2022. I've renewed a couple of times as a test up here. But you're going to choose whether or not you're going to do a 1-year membership or a 2-year membership. Now, keep in mind, this is the Antarctica application, so the application in the United States and in Canada and Australia and New Zealand and the UK, they are going to be slightly different, both in the price and in the questions that they're asking you. So I am confirming here that I understand this is a renewal in the test membership in Antarctica, so I'm going to answer these questions. Has my license been revoked? No. Am I willing to make the commitment to BNI? Yes. Have I joined any other networking organizations? Yes, and I can list them here, the Chamber of Commerce, etc. Am I prepared to invite people? Yes. Do you belong to any other referral groups? No. Have you been convicted? No, and what types of positions would I be willing to take on? And I think the visitor host and the vice president positions. At this point, if I'm happy with my details, I can just continue on and accept this. Or if I need to change any details, I can click the plus sign here, and it will allow me to change any of my contact information and things like that. Keep in mind that if you change anything that has this red pound sign next to it, the name, the company name, the profession, the specialty, or the product service description, it's going to flag it for additional review, especially if you do change your profession and specialty. They will need to definitely review that to make sure that it is unique in the chapter and that it's an acceptable category. When you're done with that, you can go ahead and check this off to say I have read and understood all the policies in the Code of Ethics, and at this point I can proceed to payment. And now I get to choose what type of payment method I'd like to use. So I can, in Antarctica, we only accept checks. So when I choose the check here, it's going to tell me how to process this check. So it's going to tell me to please bring this to the regional office to hand deliver the check. There may be, in your region, it may say, please give this check to the Secretary Treasurer, or in some regions, you can only pay by credit card. So it will depend on where you're located as to which payment type you would have. In addition, you may be asked to upload a proof of payment. For example, if you're paying on a website that cashes checks for you, to upload a certificate of deposit or something like that as part of it. But when I'm all set, I can go ahead and click Submit. And that's pretty much all there is to it from a member perspective. It's letting me know that the membership committee has been notified, and I will be contacted via email once they've made their decision. And it just brings me back to my home screen. I'm still logged in as Marky Mark here. And you'll notice that the Renew Now button is no longer available. So I can no longer click on Renew Now in order to do a second renewal on top of my first renewal. Let's see, Linnea says, if someone renewed for 2 years and the membership committee wants to review them after a year, is there a way that we can be notified? At this time, it will only notify you at the 90 days or the 60 days before the renewal is due. So there's no automatic reminder after 1 year. You would have to basically manually keep an eye on that if you wanted to renew them after 1 year. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. So again, that's the member's perspective. Do we have any other questions on how a member submits an application? Linnea says, can the membership committee change the category, for instance, from insurance to health insurance or life insurance? The membership committee, as part of this process, the membership committee cannot directly change. The reason for that is that the application needs to match what the member has chosen. And that is for legal reasons, as this is essentially the application is a contract between BNI and the member. So to have them submit one category and then have you or the membership committee change it to something else, could cause some challenges. Does that make sense, Linnea? I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. All right, so let's take a look at the next part of this process. And just to review, the member perspective, it's just you complete your renewal application, you choose payment, and then there's a bunch of notifications that do get sent out regarding the payment and the copy of the application itself. So how does this work for the next step of the process? So the next part of the process, now we're going to take off our member hat and put that to the side, and let's put on our membership committee hat or our vice president hat. And let's talk about the approval process. So the approval process in BNI Connect, every online renewal must be approved or declined for that matter, but a decision must be made on every single renewal application before it can be processed by the regional office. You have three choices when you're approving an application. It can be a full approval, it can be a conditional approval, or it could be just denied. With that said, your region does make the decision, so you need to talk to your executive director. They make the decision as to when you can do the approval. You can, in some cases, do what's called a pre-approval, meaning that you're notified at 90 days, for example, that this list of people will be due in 90 days. You can go in and say, we've already met about this person. We agree that they should renew, and we are going to pre-approve their renewal, so it just goes straight through when they put their renewal application in. Now, the other side of that coin is that that option is not available, and you can only approve them after they've submitted the renewal application, or the region can set it up so that you can do both pre-approvals and post-approvals. In my experience, most of the regions that are using this allow both pre and post approvals. One thing that's very important about that is that if you have a pre-approval in place, if you have pre-approved a member and they change any of their details, especially the category, the name, the company, a notification goes out and the pre-approval goes away. So they do need to be post-approved if they change any of their details. So let's talk about the pre-approval first. There's two ways to process a pre-approval for members. The first of which is that you will get a notification, again, 90 days before, with the list of people that are due. On that, there will be a little kind of spreadsheet that says, this member is due for renewal. Would you like to pre-approve them? And you click the link and it brings you to the pre-approval screen. The second way is through the membership dues report. So let's take a look at the membership dues report and see how that works. Now I'm still logged in as Marky Mark here. So let me go ahead and log out of this as Marky Mark. And what I want to do is to log in as my vice president up here in Antarctica. And my vice president is Alfred E. Newman. And here we go. So Alfred E. Newman, he's the vice president. What he'd like to do is to go in and take a look at the membership and see if there's anybody that they would like to pre-approve. Now we do that through the reports, through the membership dues report. And we get there by going to the reports menu. And this is a chapter level report. And the third report down is the membership dues report. So this is essentially going to show us all of the people that are due for renewal and when they're due. So here we have a bunch of people. It is sorting it by due date. So these people are all have suspended dues because they're compensated positions. So really our next upcoming people are going to be due in October, and then we don't have anybody due until June of next year. But these people that are due in October, Jamie Jones and Thea Hind, maybe we want to go in and pre-approve them so that they can submit their applications for renewal right away. To do that, we click on the member renewal link next to their name. So I'm going to pre-approve Tia here. So when I go to this pre-approval screen, it will give me the ability to check through her performance. I can see that she's been to 4 meetings in the last 6 months, hasn't really passed many referrals or brought visitors. I can also click on her training details. This will open up her profile, which gives me some good information as to whether or not she's participating in BNI Connect. I can see that she has not gone to Member Success Program, hasn't really filled out much of her profile. But it's Antarctica, so we're going to go ahead and pre-approve our good friend Tia. Now, you notice that there's no ability to pre-decline somebody. That can only happen after they've submitted their renewal application. But what I can do is I can check this box. The first box enables everything, and it says that I certify that all necessary membership performance reviews have taken place. I can also choose whether or not this is a conditional approval and whether or not as the vice president or as the leadership team, we have sent our proper control letters. Now, a conditional approval, all that does is put a mark in their history that it was conditional. It doesn't actually do anything else, so it's not enforcing any type of a policy or any type of a recovery plan or anything. Because conditional approvals vary from region to region to region and what you might do to help that member, that's all done offline. This is really just an indicator that you've done this. And at this point, I go in and I click pre-approve, and Thea will be pre-approved. Now, when a membership committee person goes in to look at that, they won't see the buttons at the bottom. They'll essentially see this right here. They will see this screen because all they can do is review the information. They don't get a chance to actually click the approval. Only usually the vice president is going to be the one that registers the decision of the membership committee. So we're not recording votes or anything like that in BNI Connect. It's just we're recording the single decision of the membership committee, and usually it's the vice president that does that. All right, and that is a pre-approval. Again, it's the same thing whether or not you go into the membership dues report or whether you go into the link that comes in the email. The other way that this can happen is that you can post-approve somebody. So when I pre-approve somebody, once Tia, she decides to go and renew, she'll step through the process. She'll get a notification at the end saying, congratulations, you've already been approved, and it will go through. By the way, when you do pre-approve somebody, just one other thing that you should know, especially if you're pre-approving somebody for a very long time in the future, that person does get an email that says, congratulations, you have been pre-approved. Would you like to start this approval process? All right, so let's move on to the next step though, and that's the post-approval. So like with Marky Mark, he submitted his application. Now, because he wasn't pre-approved, we need to go in and post-approve. So after the app is submitted, and there's two ways that we can do that. Once Marky Mark submits that application, the membership committee and the vice president, the leadership team, will get a renewal reminder saying, Marky Mark has just submitted a renewal. You now need to go and approve this renewal. The second way is that there is the View Pending Applications screen that you can go into, and that will, again, bring you into that same place. So let's take a look at how that works. So I'm already logged in, again, as Alfred E. Newman as our vice president here, and I was notified that Marky Mark submitted an application, so I can go in. Now the pending applications is going to be under Operations, Manage Memberships, View Pending Applications. And here we have our one pending application right now from Marky Mark. I can see that it was a renewal. I can see when it was submitted. I can see what the value of it was. And here's a link right here to tell me to approve it. If I go to this approve screen, you'll notice that this looks almost identical to the pre-approval screen. The only difference really is that you'll see excuse me, you'll see here that there is a PDF attached to it. If I click on this PDF, I can review Marky Mark's application. I can see how he answered his questions. And if I need to, if I wanted to keep a copy of this in the chapter president's box or file a paper copy of it, I could print this out. For the regional offices, that will be attached to their membership record, so it can be retrieved later as well. The rest of this is the same. It has the member performance and the training details. And I can then choose, again, before I can even get the buttons, I need to verify that we have had the membership committee reviews. And I can go ahead and choose to approve or decline. If I approve this, then the office will be able to process the payment. If I decline it, and there have been a couple of cases in the past where members are declined their renewal. If you decline somebody, the regional office will be notified, the director consultant will be notified, and the membership committee will be notified, but the member will not, I repeat, the member will not be notified of that decline. That conversation needs to happen through the control letters and through the membership committee. It is not done via email. So for more information about that process, please check with your executive director. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to approve Marky Mark and welcome him back for another year. Now, once I've approved this, if I go back to the pending screen, you'll notice my approve button has gone away and I can see that the status is approved. And once the regional office has processed the payment, so Marky Mark had chosen a check to send up, so once the Penguins deliver that to the regional office, they will be able to receive it, and Marky Mark will no longer appear in the pending applications list. All right, so just to review, the membership committee can review the renewal application and their performance. The leadership team member, usually the vice president, they're the ones that go in and mark the renewal as approved or declined. Again, they're recording the consensus of the membership committee. And then the next step would be that the region is going to review the full application, make sure that the payment is in place. And if it is a decline, they may talk with the member, talk with the chapter. They do have the opportunity, whether it was accidental or if it was intentional, to overturn a decline if necessary. All right, now I did mention that there are a ton of emails that happen during this process, during every little step of the way. So let me just review those emails that happen. And the first emails that go out are really prior to the renewal. So there's a membership committee renewal notification that goes out 90 days before. And if you're looking at this list here, DC stands for the director consultant. VP stands for the vice president, or if you're here from the United Kingdom and a lot of other European countries, you may call the vice president the membership coordinator. So that's what the VP is. There's the secretary treasurer is the ST, and MC stands for, in this case, membership committee. So not the membership coordinator, but the membership committee. And the next one that goes out just goes to the member, and that's 60 days before renewal. There's also a member opt-out email. So as part of the member renewal notification, there is a link to go to the renewal page. There's also a link that says, I do not wish to renew my membership at this time. What that does is it sends out a notification to the regional office, that's RA means regional administrator, to the director, to the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, saying this member has opted out of renewing. It does not drop the member out of the system. It does not terminate their membership. All it does is notify you, and if necessary, you can take steps to maybe help that member and find out why that member is unwilling to renew. As I mentioned, there's also a pre-approval email that goes out. So if you pre-approve somebody, it will send a message to the member saying, congratulations, you've been pre-approved. Would you like to renew now? Now, during the online renewal, there's 5 different emails that happen. And we have once a renewal is submitted, the member gets a copy of it. If they paid via credit card, there would be a notification that happens then. If they sent a check in or they're paying by cash or some other offline method, there is an email that goes out to the office and the leadership team letting them know to keep their eye out for a payment. Once they've submitted the online application, they will also send a notification to the Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Membership Committee, and Director Consultant, letting them know that they now need to go in and approve that. And if a member does change any of those pertinent details, if they're pre-approved, they will become unapproved, and it will send out a notification really just saying pay close attention to this particular renewal because there were changes made to the category or the name or the company name. And after the online renewal, we also have the, once it's been approved, the member is notified of that. If they had not yet paid for the renewal, they will also be prompted to make their payment. When somebody is approved, it does notify the leadership team of that. And also, if they're declined, it notifies the leadership team of that as well. And then just a different view of the same information. Who gets which email? I do get a lot of questions from, let's say, if you're on this call today and you're a vice president, which of those emails will you get? Again, you'll get the list right here, smack dab in the middle, which is the 90-day reminder, the opt-out, the offline payment, the online payment, the member details changes, and approve or decline. Now, note, you won't get all of those because some of them are one or the other. All right, so what I'd like to do right now is to open this up to questions. Linnea, I know, has one question there that I will answer as well, but I do invite you to put in any questions you have about online renewals or about really anything in BNI Connect. I'd be happy to go through those questions now. Just a reminder, we are recording this. It will be made available on our YouTube channel. You can also find a ton of resources on the support site. I would love it if you gave us a like on Facebook as well. And if you want to follow us at Twitter, or if you need to get in touch with us by email, all that information is located right there. All right, so a couple of questions. Let's see. Linnea asks, sure, but can we have a director refine the category if it isn't correct, or how do we do that? So when a category gets changed, now the regional office, so your regional admin, the executive directors, they can go in and manually change a category. So it all comes down to permissions on the profile. However, from a legal and processing standpoint, you can't do that as part of the application process. So hopefully that's making sense. So if somebody submits a renewal application with this particular category, you can't go into that category or into that application and change their category. Nobody can do that. I'm an administrator in BNI Connect with godlike access to the system. I cannot go in and change their category on their application, which is, again, why it's somewhat important to have it accurate and not change it afterwards. If it does need to be changed, then what has to happen is the renewal form gets declined or it gets voided by the regional office, and they have to submit a new application with the correct category chosen after you've talked to the person and told them which category they are approved for. Does that help? Does that make sense? All right, the next question we had is from Steve Elliott. Steve says, when is the late fee charged? So the late fee is charged automatically as soon as somebody goes into late status, which happens 1 day after your renewal date. So for example, if I was due on July 1st, and as long as I process my renewal on July 1st or before July 1st, I will not be charged a late fee. But on July 2nd and up until July 30th, is there 30 days in July or 31? But up until July 31st, I will be able to process my renewal still, but it will automatically incur a late fee. Now at 31 days, so 1 month after my renewal is due, I will then become expired. I'm now 30 days past due on my account, and it will lock me out of BNI Connect, which means that I can no longer process my renewal. So in that case, you will need to talk to your regional office. They will either need to perform an offline renewal or do some other special things behind the scenes in order to allow you access to process an online renewal. But at that point, again, you do need to talk to your regional office. So does that answer your question, Steve? And Linnea, I'm glad I was able to help. What other questions does anybody have? All right, if there's no additional questions, I would like to thank everybody for spending some time with me today and reviewing the online renewal process. By the way, a good referral for me is to have a look at the upcoming webinars. So again, you can get there by clicking this question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect. That will take you to the support site. Now, our next webinar, we just went through the online renewals. We have 3 more webinars left this month. We have the chapter web pages webinar, which is going to be next Tuesday. Then we have chapter goals for leadership teams. BNI Connect has a whole goal setting and tracking process. Love to show you that. That is going to be next Wednesday. And then after that, we're going to go really deep into the system and show some of the leadership team tools and reports, and also show how all the different things that most leadership team people need to do, such as how do you input a POMS report? How do you assign the speaker rotation? How do you assign mentors? How do you, what are some of the reports in the system that will be helpful? So that's all next week, next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at this same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So a good referral for me is to please let your other leadership team members or your chapter webmaster know about these upcoming webinars, and I will be posting the August webinar schedule very, very soon. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting.